When a wolf hunts alone, it can fail. But when several appear, the prey is no longer fleeing, it is being herded. There is a predator that does not rely on absolute speed and force. It relies on something far more dangerous, coordination. A system where every movement is calculated, every mistake the prey makes is exploited, and every second counts. And that is exactly what makes it all so unsettling. Because when a group of animals begins to act as a single entity, the hunt stops being an attempt and becomes an inevitable process. And over time, this behavior not only shaped the survival of these predators, it altered entire environments wherever they passed through. But here is the point that changes everything. The same animal that pursues, surrounds, and brings down prey larger than itself is also responsible for maintaining the balance of entire ecosystem. And when it disappears, the impact is not small, it is systemic. So the question is not just about how these predators hunt. How did a group manage to become so efficient that it could dominate prey larger than itself? What happens inside a pack during a chase? And why, when these animals vanish, does the surrounding environment begin to collapse? Before answering, we need to understand how these predators stopped being just animals and began to function as a complete hunting system. There is a predator that does not rely solely on strength or speed, but on something far rarer in nature: coordination. Wolves are spread across much of the northern hemisphere, occupying dense forests, frozen mountains, and open plains across North America, Europe, and they are not specialized for a single environment. They adapt. And wherever they are, one thing remains constant: they are never alone. Because an isolated wolf is just a hunter, but a pack is something else entirely. Unlike most predators, wolves live in organized groups that function as a family. It is not a random gathering of individuals. There is hierarchy, cooperation, and a level of coordination that transforms the group into something greater than the sum of its parts. In simple terms, it is not an animal, it is a system. Within the pack, each member has a role. Some lead, others follow, some test the prey, while others wait for the right moment. Complex language is not required. Understanding happens through subtle signal, body posture, movements, glances, and, above all, the howl. The howl does not serve only to mark territory. It connects the pack, it coordinates, it warns, and in some cases, it precedes what comes next. Because when wolves communicate this way, it normally means something is about to happen, and that something almost always involves hunting. Unlike predators that rely on ambush or brute force, wolves are persistent. They observe, test, follow, and wait. A prey animal is not chosen by chance. It is analyzed. Weakness, distance, behavior, everything enters the equation before the first move. And when the decision is made, there is no impulse. There is execution. The group moves as if it were a single organism. Some advance, others surround, others cut off escape route. The prey is not just being chased, it is being herded. And this is where everything changes, because a lone wolf can fail. But a pack, working together, can bring down prey far larger, stronger, and faster than any individual could face alone. And perhaps that is the most unsettling part. You are not dealing with a predator. You are dealing with a group that thinks, reacts, and hunts as a single entity. And that raises an inevitable question. If a lone wolf is already dangerous, what happens when you enter the territory of an entire pack? If there is one thing that turns wolves into one of the most efficient predators on the planet, it is not the bite, it is the method. A pack hunt does not happen on impulse. It begins long before the first move. Wolves observe, assess, choose. Among a group of prey animals, they do not attack the strongest. They attack the most vulnerable, an animal that is slower, injured, or isolated. And from that moment on, the pursuit stops being a chance and becomes a process. Unlike predators that rely on explosive, wolves win through attrition. They run and keep running. They can cover kilometers, maintaining constant pressure on the prey. It is not a race to catch up quickly, it is a race to exhaust. Gradually, the prey loses energy, makes mistakes, drifts away from its... And that is exactly what the pack wants. Because the moment the prey separate, the game changes completely. This is where coordination. Some wolves press from behind, others appear from the sides. One or two take the lead, steering the direction of the flight. The prey believes it is still escaping, but in reality, it is being. Its every move is anticipated, manipulated, and restricted. It is not a chase, it is control. And when the circle closes, there is no chaos. There is function. Every wolf knows what to do. Some attack the hind legs, reducing mobility. Others advance from the side. And the final strike is aimed at vital points, the throat and areas where blood loss is fastest. Everything happens in sequence, without hesitation. And it is precisely this coordination that makes something remarkable possible. Wolves can bring down prey far larger themselves: moose, deer, in some cases, even bison, animals that can weigh many times more than a single alone be possible. As a group, it is inevitable. This is the point where the contrast becomes clear. A lone wolf is dangerous, but limited. A pack, on the other hand, eliminates that limitation. It transforms individual weakness into collective strength. And perhaps the most impressive thing is the endurance. While many prey animals rely on a burst of speed and a quick escape, wolves rely on persistence. They do not need to win at the start. They win over time. The prey tires. The pack does not. And when that happens, the outcome is already decided. This pattern repeats itself across different environment situations. But the target is not always wild prey. In regions near rural areas, there are documented records of attacks on livestock. The behavior is the same: observation, selection, pursuit, and execution. For farmers, this means loss. For the wolves, it is adaptation. And although attacks on humans, they do occur. And when they do, they follow the same logic. It is not impulse, it is opportunity. And that makes it all even more unsettling, because unlike predators that attack on immediate instinct, wolves analyze. They test limits. They learn from the environment. And that means every interaction can alter the future behavior of the pack. In the end, what we are seeing is not just a group of animals hunting. It is a system operating with precision, a system that observes, decides, and executes. And when it goes into action, the prey is already at a disadvantage. Because no matter how fast, strong, or resilient it has already lost. And that brings us to the most uncomfortable question of all. If the pack functions as a single entity, is there any prey that can truly escape? After all of this, it is easy to see the wolf as a threat, an efficient predator, relentless, capable of bringing down larger prey, hunting in groups and dominating entire territory. But that is only half the story, because the true impact of wolves is not found only in the hunt. It is found in what happens when they disappear. For decades, across many regions of the world, wolves were hunted to near extinction. The reason was simple: protect livestock, reduce risk, and eliminate a predator seen as dangerous. And for a time, it seemed fewer wolves, fewer attacks, more control. But what came next revealed something completely different. Without wolves, prey populations, such as deer, grew in an uncontrolled way. Without a predator regulating those numbers, these animals began consuming vegetation in excess, destroying entire areas of forest and directly affecting the balance of the ecosystem. And the effect did not stop there. The reduced vegetation impacted other animals, altered river courses, reduced habitats, and triggered a chain reaction. A single predator removed, and the entire system began to collapse. This phenomenon became clear in one of the most studied cases in modern nature, Yellowstone. After decades without wolves, the park faced a growing imbalance. It was then that, in the 1990s, they were reintroduced. And what happened next was something unexpected. The wolves did not just control the prey population, they changed its behavior. Animals that had previously moved freely began to avoid certain areas. This allowed vegetation to regenerate, rivers to stabilize, and various species to return and reclaim their space. It was not just a change, it was a restoration. All of it caused by a single element being placed back into the system. And this is where the narrative reverses completely. The animal that had always been seen as the villain was, in reality, an essential piece, a predator that does not destroy the balance. It maintains the order. But this relationship was never simple. Human fear of wolves spans generations. Stories, legends, and real accounts created an image of constant danger. And while conflicts do exist, especially with livestock, they are part of a larger picture, the encounter between human expansion and wild territory. The problem is not just the wolf, it is the space. As humans advance into natural habitat, these encounters become inevitable, and the predator, once isolated in its own environment, begins to interact with a new element, us. And that is where the real dilemma arises. How do we coexist with an animal that represents risk, but also balance? Because eliminating that risk can mean something far greater. It can mean breaking the and perhaps that is the hardest part to accept. The same animal that provokes fear is the one that sustains the functioning of the nature around it, the predator that maintains the order. In the end, the question stops being about hunting, strength, or dominance. and becomes about balance. Because when we look at the impact of wolves, it becomes clear that they are not just hunter, they are regulator. And without them, the system loses stability. And that brings us to the most important question of all. If the animal we fear most is precisely the one that maintains the balance, is the true danger found in the pack or in its absence?
If this video made you see things in a completely different way, then it was worth it. Now tell me, did you already know all of this? Or did something here surprise you? Drop it in the comments. I really want to know what you think. And if you enjoy this kind of content, make sure to leave a like. How? It really helps and shows you want to see more.